This is Abhijit Bhaduri, and I'm delighted to be the moderator of this new series called Career Connect, where we are going to talk about careers and culture, and in the process, hopefully, make the whole process of looking for a job or a career far more exciting and meaningful.
Nestle is about, say, 150 odd years. It was set up sometime in 1866, and we got a size of more than about 84 billion Swiss francs. And that makes it the largest FMCG organization in the world. We got about more than 2,000 brands worldwide, and we have about close to 275,000 employees across the world. Present in almost 186 countries, so that's almost like any imaginable country. We would be there with our products, making sure that we're available to consumers. We got factories in about 81 odd countries. Got about 376 odd factories in about 81 odd countries. When we say employer value proposition, what we essentially mean is what can prospective candidates who are looking forward to joining the organization expect when they come and work with the organization. This is the simplest definition that I can actually say, and therefore, in some way, it's a little bit of a marriage between an organization and an employee, and therefore, the organization has to clearly define or articulate what it stands for. Now, it could be a reflection of, say, for example, the strategic priorities, how is it like to sort of work inside the organization. All of it kind of, goes into finally defining what the value proposition of the organization is. But in simple terms, it's about what is it that people can expect? What is it like to sort of work here? What is it like to sort of grow here? What does it feel to be part of this organization is what essentially becomes what is called as the employer value proposition. Purpose, our strategic priorities, our values, all kind of lend their inputs into what is called as the employer value proposition. Right? Because your strategic priorities essentially define in terms of how you move as an organization. Your culture is about, crudely put, say, the personality of the organization. So like individuals have their personalities, the organization has got a personality, and that's what gets defined as culture. All of this essentially feeds into the value proposition. So one can say that closest thing it would be is about the culture of the organization, which has got a very strong link is to say the strategy and how is it sort of to work on a day-to-day basis. The value proposition is actually the same globally. We believe in actually being a force for good. That's a war cry, that's a rallying cry, or that's the value proposition that's kind of been espoused. Our new purpose now looks like something like this. It says unlocking the power of food to enhance the quality of life for now and for generations to come. So it speaks about doing something sustainably, and again, being one of the largest FMCG organizations and probably the largest F&B player, we've kind of taken it upon ourselves to be a force for good and to make sure that we are able to meet the nutritional needs of several billion people in a sustainable way. So the four elements of being a force for good look like something like this. The first one is about being yourself. Nestle as an organization doesn't kind of essentially believe in creating clones, but we kind of really celebrate our people by respecting and encouraging their uniqueness and potential. So that's the first one. The second one is called as evolve every day. In my experience, when I kind of seen many of the people moving up, taking different kind of roles, one phrase that kind of comes to my mind is that becoming is better than being. Yeah, and therefore, we kind of provide a space for our people to constantly grow and evolve and to become a better versions of themselves. The third pillar is what is called as create impact. We spoke about unlocking the power of food. And, we've also kind of found our passion to make a difference to people's lives through our products. And we do this thing in a very sustainable way so that it impacts not just the present, but also the future, which we spoke about earlier as well. And the fourth dimension is what is called as better together, because genuinely this is an organization which has got collaboration in its DNA. We believe in taking people along, and we believe that we are at our best when we work together as one team, as one, to share our experiences, our ideas, and success. So those are the four tenets of our value proposition: be yourself, evolve every day, create impact, and better together.
When we speak about diversity first, the entire imperative actually stems out of Nestle's purpose itself, which calls out respect for diversity as one of our core values. And, hence our ambition to, create a culture and an environment which provides equal opportunities for everyone to contribute, to grow, and to feel valued. Right. And actually in 2019, we kicked off, our gender balance acceleration plan on International Women's Day. And we said that this would be one of the many ways through which we bring our values, which is rooted in respect to life. And I'll maybe spend another second talking about the gender balance acceleration plan, which is basically achieved through three pillars: bold leadership, empowering culture, and the third one being enabling practices.
I would also like to touch upon this subject on diversity, particularly for field sales, because it's unconventional for women. And I'm saying that because it's for multiple reasons. People think that it's a rough and tough job, or rain or shine, you're in the field, unlike your glamorous desk role. But Nestle as an organization has encouraged and also demonstrated high willingness for inclusion. Be it as simple as including hygiene as a parameter for evaluating your distributors, as simple as having a safe and a clean washroom is one of the parameters to evaluate a distributor. And I think that's quite incredible if you start detailing out on the minor aspects that Nestle takes care of, enhanced policies for women employees, for hotel entitlement, etc. So these are a couple of things that I would say that Nestle is very keen about in looking and also encouraging to enable women in this field. One thing that I would like to call upon where Nestle plays a role, and which I find personally very motivating or encouraging for me to be there in the field, is while it's not a part of any policy per se, but there is always a constant check. There is also, people also advise, probably if you're traveling alone, not to take a late night flight, and encourage that you travel with someone else if there is an urgency. Not just that, but your peers make the environment very conducive, constantly checking if everything is okay, if you're new to the place, if you need help and assistance like that. That's something that adds a lot of value to Nestle, and that makes Nestle a different place to work with. Nestle also ensures that you're very well taken care of in the external environment, which means we have some initiatives like Project Sunshine, which is largely towards even having this hygiene parameters as an evaluation for the distributor, right? Which means, does the distributor have a safe and a clean washroom? To start off with. That's a parameter of evaluation for the distributor, unlike investment, manpower, and infrastructure, which is a basic requirement. So that granular is it, even including such basic details to take care of women employees in field. Not just that, we have also started, this initiative called hygiene kits for all the field sales employees, so that they have a very good journey with Nestle outside also. Just to throw some numbers, we have a total headcount of 580 people. Out of that, 350 approximately is the female. And once I'm saying the total headcount, that means including me, my leadership, more than 40% is the females. And if I talk about the shop floor people, means the people who are operating the machine, which is called as very, very muscle, which strongly you need to exercise. More than 60% of the females who are operating the machine and producing the Maggi here. And more than 70% of the people of the housekeeping crew and my cleaning, transportation, security guards. That's the kind of the workplace we have in Gujarat.
I joined as an HRMT in 2016 and have been given the opportunity to experience varied roles that range from HR business partner of functions like technical, supply chain, etc. in Nestle. Also have an experience of being a factory HR and experience of leading West Branch HR as well. My last role in HR, and I will sort of clarify why I call it the last role, was HRBP of 3 very diverse functions of sales, Nestle Professional, which is our out-of-home leg of the business, and Purina Petcare India, which is a subsidiary of Nestle Global, an entity that was in fact set up the very same year that I joined. So essentially, the last role that I was done included an HR of an established function and thinking of what more and next in the function. Then being part of a journey of Nestle Professional, which was undergoing structural changes to suit the business model. And lastly, experiencing almost setting up a company with Purina. The current role, and coming to the question that you'd asked, Abhijit, is something that I had requested to experience and understand the business perspective. And I was fortunate enough to have the organization trust me to handle a role in a function that was beginning its innovation and renovation journey. So in short, basically, we were trying to capture opportunities with relevant product launches. It was at that particular business development stage. And I'm proud to say that it's been about 2 years as a brand manager in Nestle Professional, and the learning has been immense, both functionally and behaviorally. And now we've been able to launch 5 products under me. So yeah, quite a bit of a departure from HR to business. There could be formal networks of mentors as well in the organization, but I think what this organization has been very open to is the network that we've been able to also create informally. So all of these networks that I have been able to enjoy have been very informal mentor connects. So I have had few credible members in the organization who have guided me very well in all of these calls that I have been able to take in my career.
It does happen, Abhijit. I think over the course of my career itself, I have seen that based on what vertical you are in, your stakeholders change. So, for example, if you're part of the typical marketing businesses, some of the ones that Aprajita mentioned, your stakeholders are, the main consumers like your moms and kids and etc. But then something like she mentioned Purina, which is to do with cats and dogs, or nutrition, that the one that I'm in, your stakeholders do expand to other ancillary gatekeepers who sort of help make that decision. That happens. And then, of course, accordingly, if you move into something like your sales, etc., or a global role, your stakeholders also expand to the retailer base, or in terms of an international role, it then becomes the global market who become your stakeholder. So I think with Nestle, you do have that opportunity to work with a wider set of stakeholders. And like you very rightly mentioned, they change as you move in the organization. I think it's a bit designed by kind of the function that you join in. So at Nestle, we refer to sales and marketing as the generating demand vertical, because it's all about generating demand, whether it's from the consumer or the retail end. And if you join as a generating demand trainee, then somewhere your roles are to give you a flavor of what that is like. So you do a bit of sales, a bit of marketing. You do also try and see a bit of consumer insight roles, so that you get an understanding of how consumers' demand is identified, what do you do in marketing, and finally, how do you sell to them. But if you join something like the way Prajita joined with a little diverse function of HR or finance, then it's a little more specific to that function. Of course, yet they also do a bit of sales, etc., so that they eventually understand what happens in the last mile. We really do leverage our global presence. Like Prajita was mentioning in the beginning, we are a global firm. And there are quite a lot of examples within Nestle of people moving in and out of market, as we call it, like which is your local market being India and abroad. I personally have been fortunate to do this, and the best part I think about it is that we've had the opportunity to do it much early in our careers. I was, I think, only barely 3 years into the company when I had a chance to go out of India for 2 years, and there are people who do that even when they come to a point where they want to have much wider net of exposure. So quite common. There are quite a lot of expats right now also from India that are in multiple other countries. So very, very normal, Abhijit, I would say.
Sure. So, I mean, 2 words, and 2 very diverse words. I would put a hyphen there just for combine 2 words: performance oriented and like a family. So the key words being performance oriented and being a family. So it's a combination of 2, where it would expect you to perform, but in times of need, in times of guidance, in times of what next, etc., it almost behaves like a large family.
Because we're discussing career and possibility, Abhijit, one of this international career opportunity that I was just referring to, it came on my way not because I was looking out for it, I'll be very honest. I was too young in the organization to have a point of view, but I had somebody who was much a senior role, much informed, and made that nudge for me to say that, this opportunity is coming, why don't you try for it? It was not easy. Of course, it was like a proper selection process among the global employees that we had, but the fact that they watched out for such an opportunity, informed me, groomed me for it. So I really think people really do watch out for you. And even in the other part, when I was moving for my sales role, it was something that was not designed for me. My intent, my career path as defined on the system was supposed to be that I move back to marketing after I do my international role. But I felt that I had the time in my life. I was at that juncture where I could experiment with sales. And when I put that need across to my senior managers, they were more than happy. They understood that that this was important for me. It was part of my career growth. And they changed the course of my career because they agreed with what my need of the hour was. So I really feel people do look out for you here.
So I second that completely. I mean, in fact, my move has in fact been completely in the same lines. I was actually only hoping for maybe a project that the company would be able to give me as part of the business experience. But it was the trust of my two mentors, which is the business head of Nestle Professional, Shushruth Nallurwar, and Sriram, the line manager that I had at that particular point of time, who was also heading the generating demand HR function. Both of them sort of placed that trust in me. In fact, all the doubts and queries and the fears I had was answered. In fact, to the level that I mentioned that, you know what, my father also has his own doubts about this. It's a big career move. So I remember that Sriram was sort of open enough to have that conversation with my father. I mean, I'm just sort of trying to tell you how big a family this is, that even connects like these were then hence made possible.
I started with Nestle in 2015, straight out of college. Joined as a management trainee, worked with KitKat, which is like a much loved brand in my first year. Moved to Bangalore for sales, had a factory stint in Ponda, which is our chocolates factory. So you can imagine how exciting it was working in a chocolates factory fresh out of college.
Yeah, it just sounds like my dream job, you know.
I know. I just felt like Willy Wonka. Like, it was so amazing. But yeah, so from there I moved to taking a full brand management role and working on Munch and Polo. So Munch is again a much loved wafer brand, and then Polo is our iconic mint. Post that, I handled beverages and dairy category for the entire West region in a trade marketing role. So it was a mix of both trade understanding and marketing. And then I moved to hardcore sales role, doing a field role for 1.5 years in Mumbai city. So I was ASM and handling a large part of Mumbai. And then I had another transition and I moved to culinary business of Nestle India, and I was handling Maggi sauces. And currently I am working with the Maggi noodles team for Nestle Sri Lanka. So I have been expatriated to Sri Lanka, and I'm working for Sri Lanka now. Abhijit, so see, to be honest here, in every brand management role, functional knowledge is a must, and a bit of creativity and some bit of good analytical skills to read the trends actually adds a lot of value in becoming a successful brand manager. But if you're specifically asking that what does Nestle offer, so Nestle has very robust frameworks in building brands. So we in fact have a framework which is BBNW. So it's it's as fancy as the acronym. So it's building brand the Nestle way, and it actually draws a very interesting parallel. So just like we would build a house by making by making foundation, different rooms, and then you move to the top and you have an attic. Similar kind of thing. So we do build our brands like a house. So we start with our foundation is understanding our consumer, and at the same time understanding that how our brand has a purpose and what's the brand essence. And then we move to the next level, which talks about building our portfolio, which is sustainable and innovative, and at the same time creating brand experiences, because we don't talk about brand marketing, because marketing is something which is more company forward, but we talk about experiences because that is consumer forward. We think consumer at the center, and then in the end we talk about planning and executing flawlessly. So it's very similar to what we experience in our day-to-day basis of building a house. It's the same thing that we build a brand. And we start with, like I said, we start with a basic consumer understanding, defining our target group, understanding the insight, and then moving on to the big idea for the brand. So that is where the magic happens, when the big idea translates to product, to comms, to packaging, and then that's where a brand gets built.
Firstly, one thing that both of us share is having been in a truck. I would have done the same thing in Nagaon district in Assam, going with a ready stock unit to ensure that every single outlet has a Maggi and a Nescafe in those outlets as well. So that's something we share mutually. And yes, when we talk about brand management and marketing, especially if I dial back to my days in B school, what I thought about was like a starry-eyed MBA grad was marketing is going to be about making these fancy ads, interacting with celebrities, and wait for your billboard to be up on the busiest highways in Bombay. That was what I thought a lot about marketing. But, the fact is, there is a lot before that happens. And sales is a foundation for marketing, and that's something I would request all of us to be aware, especially the students who have joined in, that sales is a foundation, and especially those of us who get an opportunity to start, do a sales role, be it as an area sales manager or in terms of trade marketing exposures in the initial phases of your career. You are in great stead, because I remember the day when my HR told me that for your sales stint you have to go to Guwahati, then sometime in Shillong, then Bihar, Patna, Kolkata. When I heard of these places, I was a bit kind to go into my shell and say, no, I really don't want to do this. I would be happy in a Bombay, a Delhi, or a Bangalore. But needless to say, it was the most enriching phase in my career, because after my management trainee stint, I was given the task of being an area sales manager for the state of Telangana, and I think that's been the one of the most enriching experiences, managing a team at such an early stage in my career.
When you are working as an area sales manager, as Lakshay mentioned, you will have set of reportees who will be looking at a certain pockets of regions. Those are called sales officers in Nestle. Roughly each of the area sales manager will have around 4 to 5 direct reportees. Also, what happens is you will have a lot of indirect reportees as well. So basically people who are actually the foot soldiers and actually ensures that your products are available on the ground. So you kind of manage them as well, ensuring that what is the motivation behind these people, ensuring that every day they have to wake up at 9 a.m. and go to the market, ensure that your product, and Nestle has like hundreds of SKUs, ensuring that each of these SKUs are available in each of the outlets which are there. So it's a heavy task, but what it ensures is in your future, in your growth journey, as you become a leader, what happens is these all things comes into play. Seeing people who will be in a managerial position, seeing what are their motivations, what are their goals, and also seeing the indirect reportees, for example, who are on the ground, what are their different kinds of motivation. And this actually helps you when you are brand managers to ensure that how can I motivate them to ensure that my product sells well. So this is what sales actually taught me as a leader, which now helps me as a brand manager. So in terms of what Nestle offers is a huge variety, from let's say a nutrition to a chocolates, which is more impulse. And then again, you have varieties in terms of out of home to in home, etc. Stakeholders management across these categories to an extent remains the same. There will be slightly higher dependency on some of the stakeholders in each of this. What is critical is Nestle as an organization gives you as a power as a project manager, as a P&L owner as well. So when you are a P&L owner, you are a project owner. What happens is you are responsible for whatever is happening in this brand. So right from what is happening in the manufacturing side, how is the manufacturing happening, is the resources which are being used in terms of packaging, is the resources which are used being in terms of value chain, are all of these are most optimized, because you want to give to the consumer the best possible product at most optimized rates. So what happens is you manage all these stakeholders who are not directly reporting to you, but to an extent also have a responsibility towards you. And what will happen is when you manage these kinds of projects, you will have the decision-making powers, and other stakeholders, whether it be in supply chain, finance, will look forward to what you are saying in regards to your brand to take the decision forward in these projects. So that is the level of stakeholders management which we do on a daily basis.
As some of you may know, we are in India for last over 100 years. We started in 1912, and being sustainable is integral to what we do. Sustainability has become, as you know, all the more important for every organization. Employees want to work for a company which is sustainable and has a purpose. The suppliers want to grow with a company that helps them grow as well. And consumer expect honesty, transparency, and a positive impact which the company is making. Let me talk a bit about climate change. As Vaishali said, this is one topic which we also want to pick today and dive a little deeper. You must have been reading about what is happening on climate change, what is net zero, how the temperature is going up, and what will be the impact if the temperature keeps going up. So I'll just give you a little bit of background. The global temperatures have been rising. from industrial revolution time, it has risen by about 1 degree centigrade. So why concern now? The concern really is because it is rising much faster now, and we all need to do something. Governments are doing their part, so are organizations, and many of us in our individual capacity. Before I take this further, I just thought I'll share a few examples with you. If the temperature were to go up by 1.5 degree to, let's say, 3.2, which could be a likely scenario if we don't take some tough positions and tough stands. If it is 3.2 degrees, then the Australian milk production will drop by approximately 20%. Half of the wheat grown in the US and third of rice grown in India could be gone. High volatility on the coffee market due to different growing seasons. And let's assume a good situation where it goes only by 1.5 degrees, which actually is not very good. We would see wheat production in India dropping by about 23% and maize production by 18%. And the milk production could go down by 15 metric tons. Both these figures are for 2050. So as a company, what we are doing, we are focusing a lot like what we've been doing in the past and accelerating it now. Sustainable sourcing. I'm sure you all read about regenerative agriculture and the steps which need to be taken. Work on packaging. How packaging can be made sustainable, how we make sure about plastic neutrality and other things, sustainable manufacturing, sustainable logistics. When we look at products, what recipes would be better when it comes to reduction in greenhouse gas emission. And lastly, but very importantly, how to communicate the initiatives which can be replicated and can be very inspiring. These are few examples, but across the value chain, there are many, many things which need to be done. Mansi have just moved to paper straw from plastic straws for RTD products. And here I talk about Milo and Nescafe. What was the thinking? What was the learning? How did you execute? How are you trying to change consumer behavior? When I say consumer, all of us. And what more needs to be done?
Thanks, Sanjay sir. I am personally very excited to be part of this initiative for our brands of Nescafe, entire range of our ready-to-drink cold coffee packs and Milo beverage packs as well. This initiative, Sanjay sir, is actually one more step in Nestle's overall sustainability journey. As you mentioned, and I'm sure the audience registered, that we are constantly looking for endeavors and means to make all our brands more sustainable for our consumers. Eliminating plastic straws and replacing them with paper straws is just the start of our journey on the ready-to-drink portfolio. We are also already working on endeavors to also replace the plastic wrapper around these straws. Efforts are on for that, and we mean to ensure that this journey continues for us. In this journey, we welcome and would love for all our consumers, the Gen Zs of Nescafe, RTD, people on the call, all of us, you, me, should participate and ensure we do our little bit and one more step from our side towards this sustainability journey.
What we are doing over here is that before I go into the initiatives what Nestle is doing, I just want to brief that greenhouse gases are getting emitted because we use energy for our manufacturing. Energy, when we talk about the energy usage, basically it comes the power which we are using for running our operations. Then we do use some fuels in our factory. So all these things like fuels, we use coal, we use HSD, we use furnace oil. These are the fuels or natural gas which emit CO2, which is greenhouse gases. It has emission is there. So there was we always put a lot of efforts to reduce energy so that indirectly we reduce the greenhouse gases. But then all of a sudden there was also some kind of initiatives we have started where we focus that really we have to convert our fuels to the cleaner fuels or the green fuels. And this journey started when in NCR there was a lot of pollutions are there during the winter season. So we start moving from heavy oils to the HSD and to the natural gas. Then now we are going to the biomass. So our journey is started sometime in 2016, and now by 2025 we have an aim that we will be reducing our carbon footprint by 25%.
So essentially, the problem of waste management comes from the fact that most of the plastics are not easy to recycle. So companies can actually move their plastic packaging to recyclable by moving it to single family polymers or monomaterials as they are commonly known. So we at Nestle have also been working extensively on these monomaterials. The important thing to note is that there is a journey in upgrading technology to enable existing lines to be able to use these polymers. We have started this journey a couple of years back, and we have already traveled this journey for some lines for key brands. So we have been rolling them out in a phased manner for different brands, for confectionery business and our food business. This is one of the projects which is close to every person's heart in Nestle. So I would like to touch upon the project Hildari. Like the word says, it was based in Mussoorie, so it is essentially how that word hill comes. Here we are encouraging households to segregate waste and initiating behavioral changes towards how waste is managed at household level. So the problem today is that if waste is not segregated at household level, then the whole responsibility of segregating falls on the system that is collecting the waste after it has already been mixed. So this is an initiative at that level. And especially we are also recognizing the efforts of waste workers and their contribution to their society by their efforts. If it was not for them, we would not be living in the kind of environment that we live in. So that's a summary of, I would like to say, of Hildari.
When it comes to the water, we use in our company 3R, that is reduce, reuse and recycle. We do a lot of things and a lot of projects really on these subjects on 3R, and try to first reduce and then reuse and then recycle. Now, every years we have very aggressive targets and we meet those targets, but then slowly you'll know that low hanging fruits are gone, and during that period then we are running short of the ideas. Then it comes that we are in Nestle, we are using a lot of milk. We get the fresh milk. I think in our Indian factories we take approximately 1.5 million liters of milk per day in the peak season, and it contains approximately 85 to 88% of water. And then we thought of at one point of time that this water which we are taking out of the milk and then evaporating and then we are making the powder, why not we start using this water? Then with the help of our knowledge partners, we developed the technology and we start using, and we are very happy to share that now the whatsoever milk we are getting in our two factory, Moga and Smalka, and whatsoever water we are taking out from the milk, and we polish that, and that water is made better than, I will say, that groundwater. It is a drinking water. It is conforming to the requirement of processed water requirement, and then we use in our factory. Now with this initiatives, we were able to reduce the water footprint by 25%.